Hi guys, today we are back for part 3 of my Spider-Man review series, and today the movie I will be reviewing is Spider-Man 3. This opening weekend, Spider-Man 3 earned $230.5 million and overall worldwide it grossed over $890.9 million. So one of the first things I realised I didn't like about this movie was Sandman's character, and that's because throughout the movie he's just completely inconsistent. At the start of the movie, when we first meet Flint Marko, his motivations are made clear that he does what he does because he wants to save his daughter, right? His daughter's sick and he wants to save her, he wants to make sure that she's well. But then towards the end / middle of the movie, his motivations change from that to wanting to kill Spider-Man. Like, he just completely forgets about his daughter and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill Spider-Man now. That's what I want to do. Now, I know that he doesn't just switch to this straight away. Like, he doesn't just do it for no reason. Spider-Man does do some pretty bad stuff throughout the runtime of this movie, but still, like, a motivation of saving your daughter, right? His daughter's gonna die and he wants to save her. A motivation that big, and he just leaves it behind because Spider-Man's a dick. Like, he's just like, yeah, I want to kill Spider-Man now because Spider-Man's a dick, but my daughter's gonna die, that's fine. Forget about that, I just want to kill Spider-Man now. It doesn't make sense. The motivation is too big to just be dropped that quickly. And then by the end of the movie, he just sort of clicks back into his I had no choice character. Like, Spider-Man gives him a speech and he's like, I had no choice, I didn't want to kill you, I didn't want to do this. But you didn't have to kill Spider-Man. In that moment in time, Spider-Man was not after you, so you could have just gone back to saving your daughter. Spider-Man thinks you're currently dead, so as long as you keep it under the radar, then you're completely fine. So, it doesn't make sense. Next up, I am completely aware that this movie came out in 2007, but the CGI and green screen in this movie is just shocking. It's absolutely terrible. The CGI looks much better in Spider-Man 2, and a lot more in-camera techniques were used to make it look more realistic during action sequences. And in my opinion, the CGI is just overused way too much through the duration of this film, when they've shown in previous films that they can use these physical techniques that make things look more realistic, and they just took advantage of technology. They were just like, oh yeah, we got CGI and we got a massive budget, let's just cover it in CGI, and it looked horrible. Sandman's origin sucks, okay? As much as I like why it happened, I hate how it happened, right? So, when Flint falls into the Chamber of Sand, the mass changes, right, as noted by the scientists. They say there's a change in mass, and then another scientist says, oh, it's probably just a bird, it'll fly away when we fire it up. I feel like this was a result of lazy writing, because Sandman would surely weigh much more than the bird. So, like, the scientists being this careless about something that could kill someone, it bugs the crap out of me, because they wouldn't do that. Like, they wouldn't just say it's a bird, because Sandman definitely weighs more than a bird. He's a pretty jacked guy, like, he's pretty big, so the ignorance is just, that would not happen. Terrible origin, no way. The omelette. Well, rest in peace. He didn't deserve that fate. Damn you, Harry. One of the biggest failures of this movie is trying to juggle way too many subplots and way too many villains. I think that Sandman and New Goblin would have been absolutely fine as the two villains in the movie, and it's clear to see the Venom is shoehorned in. Like, Raimi stated that he was shoehorned, but even if you don't see that statement from Raimi, you can tell. Like, you can tell that Venom was a very last minute character and wasn't really meant to be there. Having this many villains in the movie doesn't give it enough time to focus on its key characters, leaving certain characters like Harry feeling very empty and pointless, like they don't really have a space in the movie, when in the past two movies he's been super complex and super interesting. In my opinion, the main one and only villain of this movie should have been Harry as the new Goblin, because the past two movies have been working on getting him to this point the entire time, and now that he's here at this point where he's finally turned into the Goblin, it's just completely wasted and he's forgotten about after like the first fight in that alleyway. He's just pushed aside and forgotten about. The symbiote also would have been a great driving force if this had happened as well, because all this time since Harry found out that Spider-Man killed his father, Peter's been trying to prove his innocence to Harry and be like, look, it wasn't my fault, I didn't mean to kill your father, not much I can do about it. And, you know, he's just trying, he doesn't want to fight Harry, he just wants to be friends with him again. He's just saying, look, I didn't mean to do this, it just happened. But the symbiote would have pushed Peter past that line where he's like, yo, you know what, you're being a dick to me, I don't care anymore. I got all this anger built up in me, I'm not trying to prove I'm innocent anymore, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you, like I don't care anymore. So that would have been great if Harry was made the main villain for the entire movie. It would have been perfect. We sort of get this fight towards like the end of the second act of the movie, like towards the middle of the movie we sort of get this. But the fight was nowhere near as good as it could have been, and like I feel like it was just purely put there to increase the runtime of the movie. Like it feels really forced, it doesn't feel natural at all. It's like, right, let's take a break from Sandman a sec and let's just have Harry fight Peter for no reason. Like it breaks the momentum of the film completely. Venom, just Venom in general was such a terrible idea for this movie. Venom is such a main Spider-Man villain, such a huge and complicated Spider-Man villain, that he deserves his own movie with, you know, he deserves a movie where he's the main villain, the one and only villain, where the character is put in, the development of that character is there, he has motivations, you know, he needs time, he can't just be chucked in the end of a movie. Like, Venom is such a crutch on this movie, it's just, he's so forced in there and he doesn't belong there. Raimi just put him in there to make Avi Arad happy. Like, Avi Arad was like, I love Venom, Venom needs to be in this trilogy, he's not in this trilogy, you can't make the film, put him in the film. But Avi, the film's already made, like it's almost finished, I don't care, you gotta put him in the film. And boom, Spider-Man 3 was born. Terrible idea. Avi Arad, you suck, bro, you suck, right? You're a dick, right? Just stay out of people's way, bro. The film before was Spider-Man 2, yeah? That possibly hailed as one of the best superhero movies of all time, and then you ruin this one, bro. What's he up to? Venom is literally there for one battle. He's there for the final battle, and the symbiote gets destroyed by one of the Goblin's grenades. No future storylines. We know the Spider-Man 4 got cancelled, but the symbiote got destroyed, right? No future storyline, no Venom spawn, like, you know, like Toxin and Riot and, you know, Carnage, none of that. No, it just got destroyed. Eddie Brock's dead. You know, they just completely cut it off. And so stupid. Just, I could rant about Venom, like, not even professionally, just, it genuinely makes me annoyed. It's just, it's so bad. The next thing I hate is that Bernard, or Bernard, however you want to say it, picks an absolutely terrible time to tell Harry about the truth about his father's death, and that it wasn't actually Peter's fault. Terrible time. And you can very much tell that he just tells Harry this so that he can be like, oh, everything's okay now, Peter never killed my dad, everything's okay, friends. And you're just like, no, that's not how it works. You can't just do that. Like, there's no development, it just happens. It's just like, right, this is the truth, They're just like, you've been pissed off for a very long time, but now everything's just going to be okay just because story. The thing that makes this even more annoying, right, is that Bernard even realises that Harry is obsessing over Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2, because in Spider-Man 2 there's a scene where Bernard walks in on Harry and says, your father only ever obsessed over his work, because he knows that Harry has been obsessed over Spider-Man when he shouldn't have been. And if he had seen Harry obsessing over Spider-Man and just gone, you know, you shouldn't be obsessing over Spider-Man because he didn't actually kill your father, and he'd be like, what? And then he'd go, well, see, the night your father died, I examined his wounds, and truth be told, like, it came from his own glider. Spider-Man didn't do shit. And then just be like, oh, well, I'm a dumbass then. Like, it's fine. Like, Spider-Man's a hero. Spider-Man didn't do nothing wrong. But he doesn't do that. So then it leads up to all this thing where it's like, right, Harry's the new Goblin because he hates Peter, he hates Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Spider-Man needs Harry's help. Hold on. Your father didn't get killed by Spider-Man. Oh, everything's fine now. No, that's not how storytelling works, okay? Now, Topher Grace, right? Let's talk about Topher Grace. I don't think... This is going to be a hot take, right? I don't think Topher Grace was that bad as Eddie Brock, okay? I think he actually did a pretty good job. It's just down to writing, right? Eddie Brock is an absolute douche, right? He's an absolute idiot. He is so cringy that you can tell it's purposeful, right? This version of Eddie Brock is meant to be an absolute cringe machine, right? He just pumps out cringe, and you're just like, I don't like this guy. He's neurotic, he's arrogant, he's way too in over his head, he thinks he's the best at everything, and I think Topher Grace like portrays that absolutely perfectly. But then when he turns into Venom and needs to be a psychotic monster, Topher Grace cannot portray this at all, right? He sucks at being Venom. He's a decent Eddie Brock, but he absolutely ruins Venom. Like, he tries to do a maniacal laugh and it falls flat. It's terrible, right? He cannot bring out this psychotic half of him. He's just a douche, like, in a monster outfit, and it doesn't work at all. So I don't even think he auditioned for it. I think I heard something saying like that Topher Grace didn't even audition because Venom was such a last minute thing. They were like, right, we'll get Topher Grace, we'll chuck him in it, bada boom bada bing, done. And it stands out because Topher Grace sucks as Venom. Okay, rant over. Now we're going to get on to the things I actually liked about this movie, and surprisingly enough, there are quite a few things that I like about this movie, right? I don't think it's all terrible. There are some parts in this film that are genuinely bloody amazing. Like, they're really good. So let's get into them. So, new Goblin, right? As I mentioned in the things I didn't like, I thought that his character was completely wasted, and from what we saw of the new Goblin at the start of the film, I actually really liked. It felt right. It felt like this was gonna happen, right? Harry hating Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2, then finding his father's lair at the end and finding all the Goblin gear in there. It's just the past two films had set up this thing. Like, he was meant to be the new Goblin. It set up this through the entire past two movies, and this movie, I think, it would have been absolutely great if they had made Harry the main villain. Sandman's awakening. Now, this scene is a scene that I thought just definitely needed a mention in this review, because I think it's just an outstandingly beautiful scene. Like, visually maybe not so much because the CGI can be a bit lacking, but like the meaning behind it, just, I don't know, just something about watching him wake up for that first time where his life has just been changed forever. It's such a beautiful scene. The first time we see Sandman form, he gets up a little bit and then just completely crumbles. And then he manages to muster up the strength to get back up, form a very basic sort of human shape, and form like mitten hands. He then sees the pendant with the picture of his daughter in it, and he tries to reach out for it. Now this scene is, I don't know why, it makes me quite emotional, because he tries reaching out for it and he can't get it, and as a father you can just see in his, well, in his non-eyes, but like, you know, his face is sort of the facial expression sort of there. He's so frustrated with this. He's like, could my life get any worse? Like, I'm a sand thing. I can't even pick up this bloody thing now. The only thing that I have to think of my daughter while I'm away, and I can't even take it with me. And then he sort of like musters up the strength and forms hands. It's just, I don't know, something about it makes me really emotional. Beautiful scene. Definitely like one of the most beautiful scenes in the film. I really adore this scene. I also love how in this movie Peter has everything he could ever want. MJ is his girlfriend. That's the girl of his dreams. He's been fighting for her for the past 2 films, and they're finally together. And the city absolutely loves Spider-Man, even more so than they did in Spider-Man 2. However, MJ's life is going absolutely terribly. Her acting career is failing. She's so embarrassed of it that she can't tell Peter because Peter is so happy, and she doesn't want to ruin that for him, which is a very bad relationship. And every time Peter goes to be there for her and help her, he can only ever talk about himself. He's always talking about his past experiences and how he feels and how this happened to him and how that happened to him, and he's not really empathising with how she feels. He's just kind of ignorant to it. I really love this because it shows that their roles have flipped from Spider-Man 2. Because in Spider-Man 2, Peter was having a terrible time. His life was absolutely terrible. He couldn't balance Spider-Man and his life. Everything was going wrong for him. Whereas MJ's acting career was going really well. She had a boyfriend, she was going to get married, everything was going Gucci. Now it's all changed by the time Spider-Man 3 comes around. They go the opposite. Peter is like super happy, MJ is like down in the dumps. So I like how those roles are flipped. I also like the display of Peter's ego getting bigger and bigger and bigger since he's getting all this positive feedback from like everyone and his life is going great. His ego just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Moments where you can see this are the kiss with Gwen and the Sandman fight in the money truck, in like the bank truck. He sort of lands in there and he's being all cocky like, I'm not sure if you knew, but I'm the sheriff around these parts and I'm the boss and I'm the shit, like don't mess with me because I'm the best. His ego's just getting big. And like, I know people say the Spider-Man doesn't quip much in this trilogy, right? But I think that was almost a purposeful thing. Like, he's a very responsible person. He doesn't like making fun of these situations. Like, he's just straight to it. He's like, right, people are in danger, I gotta save them. He's getting very egotistical now and cocky about it. And he loses this fight to Sandman, technically. Like, Sandman gets away, right? I don't know if he gets away with the money, but nonetheless, Sandman gets away, mostly because Spider-Man is being cocky and he's not focusing. He's just, you know, Sandman's beating him up because he's not paying attention to what he's doing. He's being really cocky. Peter's ego is seen getting even bigger at the restaurant where he's going to propose to MJ. Now bear in mind this happens just after he kisses Gwen. So the fact that he thinks MJ is just going to say yes to his proposal after he's done this is like extremely egotistical, because he thinks, ah, it's fine, we're in a relationship, it'll be fine. Spider-Man kissed Gwen, right? Not me. Like, that was Spider-Man. No mate, you kissed Gwen the night before you want to propose to your missus. Like, that is the wrong move, bro. The wrong move. Peter is honestly a huge dick in this scene, right? Even when he's trying to help MJ, he just keeps talking about himself, and he's just like, as I mentioned earlier, he just keeps mentioning how he's experienced this, he's experienced that. Oh, your life can't be that bad. My life was much worse at a certain time, because it's all about him. He's not empathising with her at all. It's all about what he's experienced. He thinks he knows how she feels, but he doesn't at all, and he can't stop talking about himself. Another thing I like is that after Peter realises that Flint Marko is the person who actually killed his uncle, and he's still out there, he goes on a revenge spree once again, where you see him just ignoring the police scanner. he's only looking for things that might be the description of Sandman, because he just wants to go after Sandman. He doesn't care about anything else anymore. He's become very responsible once again. He's only out for revenge. I like this edition because it shows us a part of Peter that we haven't seen before. We've only seen it in comics. It hasn't even been done in cartoons. I can't remember the exact issue, but there's one comic that I know of where Spider-Man is tasked with saving Aunt May, and he chooses to ignore all of the crimes because it would just inconvenience him and make him more likely that Aunt May would die. So he ignores all of the crimes just to go after Aunt May. Spider-Man is very selfish. The symbiote. Now, many people think that the symbiote is the downfall of this movie. I don't think that's true. Venom is what ruined this movie, not the symbiote itself, right? This movie follows a Peter Parker that's getting very cocky and very egotistical. Like I mentioned before, he's an absolute dick. What better way to push this further than to include the symbiote, an alien creature that enhances the negative psyche of its wearer, including attitude, violent tendencies, ego and arrogance. All of these things have been displayed by Peter thus far throughout the movie, so the symbiote was the perfect way to show off all of a hero. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Peter keep the symbiote until the end of the movie, because we would have seen him get more violent and more uncontrollable until eventually he does something absolutely horrific. Maybe like killing his best friend Harry. Now, even though this sounds quite dark, in my eyes this would have been perfect, because we'd still get the super emotional death of Harry, but at a much higher price, because this time it was Peter who killed Harry. And Peter is meant to be the hero. Not only is he meant to be the hero, he's meant to be Spider-Man, and Spider-Man doesn't kill. So this is just a much higher price to pay for wearing the symbiote. The next thing I want to mention is only a small Easter egg, but I just really appreciate it being there. In the bar where Peter tries to humiliate MJ when he takes Gwen to the bar and does the dance with her and plays the piano and all that. Well, when he's playing the piano, I think this is actually a little nod back to where Aunt May mentions giving piano lessons, and obviously Peter would have taken up these piano lessons because it's his Aunt May. So I think he can play piano because Aunt May was giving piano lessons. I don't know, I think if that's true, that's a really cool Easter egg. I'm glad that they put it in there, just for like the fans of the previous film to pick out. I just think it's really funny and it works pretty well. So if that's true, then great stuff. The team up with Peter and Harry in the final battle. Now, I know I said that I wish Harry was the main villain, so that kind of contradicts this point, but considering they didn't go that route, I can deal with this, and I actually really like it. This scene, I can honestly say, gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. It's not only two people who have been fighting for the whole movie coming together as friends again, but they're coming together to help each other fight. And again, I will state, I hate how Harry is all of a sudden just okay with Peter again. That doesn't work for me. But if I kind of block that out, this scene alone is actually a very good scene. I really like this scene. The final thing that I love about this movie is Harry's goodbye. Now, this scene for me is just super emotional. I literally, I didn't cry in Endgame, right? Let me just put that out there. When Tony Stark died in Endgame, I did not cry. I did not even get a tear in my eye, right? This scene where Harry dies in the end of Spider-Man 3, where the sunset is in the background and Peter and MJ are by the side of him, along with like the little thing he says where Peter says like, I'm sorry I said those things, shouldn't have said those things, you're my friend. No, Harry says, it's okay, you know, don't worry about it, you're my friend. And Peter says, best friend. And you're just like, oh bro, the feels. I get emotional even thinking about it. Like, the score that goes along with it. Oh, such a stunning scene. I genuinely is one of the only superhero scenes that makes me feel like I'm gonna cry. Like, I get on the verge of tears. I'm on the verge of tears now just thinking about it. And then, I know this technically doesn't count as the film, but in the credits later it plays my go-to sad song, and I mention this every single time to Nathan, right? That song is Signal Fire by Snow Patrol, right? It's such a sad song, and like, I don't know, it just caps off the film perfectly, and it makes me so emotional every time. When I hear that song, I'm like, shit, Harry Osborn just died, saving Peter's life. And I just, if I don't cry when Harry dies, I cry during that credit scene. I can't help myself. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please give the video a like and consider subscribing. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers, and if you could help us get there, we would appreciate that so much. We are doing a giveaway at 2,000, and if you enter, you could win something. To everyone who is already subscribed to us, we appreciate you so much, and we could not be more thankful for your continued support over the time that we've been uploading videos. It helps us so much, gives us motivation to bring you more content, helps us with, you know, making more films and getting out there into the world, and we appreciate that so much. You just genuinely do not, you probably don't understand how much you help us, and I cannot be more grateful for that by just clicking that subscribe button. So thank you everyone who watched, thank you everyone who subscribes. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.